Hello, and welcome to Under 1000. I'm your host, Thomas Flower. Each episode, I'll read you a piece of super short fiction. All of them are 1,000 words or less. Today, I'll be reading a piece called The Story of an Average Day. Please be aware that this episode deals with themes of depression and anxiety. Also, this episode contains one use of strong language, so if that's likely to upset you or anyone that you're listening with, then you might want to skip it. Also, I just want to point out that while the feelings of depression and anxiety are normalised for the character in this story, that doesn't mean that they are healthy or normal ways to feel. If you can identify your own feelings within this character's story, then I encourage you to reach out for support. I woke up at 8 a.m. Last night I told myself I would wake up at a sensible time so I could get some work done, but with nothing particularly pressing to properly motivate me, I ended up lying in bed for far longer than I meant to. Eventually, I scraped up some motivation and hauled myself up. Why was I so bad at this? I was wasting time when I should be being productive. So stupid. I showered and ate, then sat down to work. There were projects and ideas I wanted to get finished. Things I didn't need to do, but wanted to, because of the promise and potential they held in my eyes. Instead, I procrastinated another 2 hours online, taking stupid quizzes and finding out facts about celebrities I barely knew or cared about. Why was I doing this? I was squandering my own chances, not even for anything enjoyable, just throwing them down the gutter like I didn't want to dream of a better life anymore. In my mind, I would finish my script, sell it for a whole heap of money, and have it made in Hollywood where I hobnobbed with the stars and generally lived the glamorous life. Instead, I was sat here in my flat eating leftover pasta because that's all that was in the fridge this morning. And whose fault was that? Mine, of course. Instead of using this time to better myself and get me closer to my dream, I was wasting it and then bemoaning wasting it to myself. Pathetic, really. In a huff at myself, I drew up a list of things I needed to get from the shops. There wasn't much in the way of food in the house. There were plenty of things I could eat if I was prepared to spend a few hours cooking, but I didn't want to spend a few hours cooking. I wanted to eat and be done with it. So I drew up a list. Snacks, ready meals, frozen dinners, biscuits. Sure, it wasn't healthy, but what did it matter anyway? Why spend the time? If I couldn't get myself to do the things I thought I dreamt of, then how could I possibly do something I didn't even want to? Grabbing my bag, I hurried out the door. I'd wasted so much of the day already. I should at least get the shopping in. I shuffled hurriedly down the street, trying not to meet anyone's gaze as I rushed past. It wasn't that I was scared to, it's just that I was worried what they might think when they saw me. They must assume I was weird or crazy or see me as being the lazy and stupid person I really was. I was so sure they could just read me like an open book, although honestly I was more like a free pamphlet that gets shoved through the door unwanted. I zoomed round the aisles in the shop, still hurrying away, though I'm not quite sure why. I didn't exactly have anywhere to be or anything to do, so why was I in such a rush? Perhaps I thought if I slowed down, the judgment of everyone would finally catch up with me. In truth, it was more that my own judgments of myself would. Finally, having gathered up everything on the list, I jumped in line for the checkout. I noticed how slowly we were moving after only a little time. We seemed to be standing here waiting forever and ever and ever and ever. I tapped my foot impatiently, simultaneously trying to think out all the things I knew I still needed to do today, before crossing off the ones I knew I wouldn't actually have the willpower to accomplish. Can't even go through with my own plans. How sad. Eventually, as the line slowly progressed, it was finally my turn. "And how are you today?" the lady at the till asked me, a sunny tone to her voice and a cheery smile on her face. "Fine," I mumbled, trying not to hold her gaze for too long. "Are you sure, dear? You don't look so happy," she asked, scanning away as she talked. Suddenly, I felt compelled to tell her everything. about how I had such grand dreams for what I wanted life to be, and how instead I was stuck here in this prison of my own laziness and incompetence, forever making a rod to beat my own back. I wanted to curse and cry right there in the middle of the store, about how the good life was clearly waiting for me, if only I would stop being so utterly useless and just buckle down and put in the hard work. Instead, I sighed deeply and replied, "Just having a bad day, I guess." As I trudged home, I began to wonder what it was. Why was I so uniquely incapable when everyone else seemed to have it all worked out? I'd seen them, with their perfectly happy lives. They all seemed like they had it under control, so maybe I was just a fuck-up, the only one who buckled under the tiny pressures that life threw my way, while others valiantly conquered great challenges and basked in the glory of their rewards. Back home, I put away the shopping and washed the dishes, before settling in to watch some telly before dinner and then bed. It was so late in the day, what point was there trying to do something now? No, it was useless. I was just too incapable of being any good to anyone. Better instead to surrender to it. Let it go to sleep till morning, wake up, do it all again. My life was filled with 1,000,000 average days. Same every day, and it was all my fault. Thank you for listening to Under 1000. I'm your host, Thomas Flower. The theme music is an instrumental version of In Between Days by Nick Tate and the Sharks. To hear the full song and more from the same EP, go to Nick Tate, Nictate, and thesharks.bandcamp.com, or search for them on your preferred streaming platform. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and that you'll join me again next time for some more super short fiction.